The people or the issues?
Ben Vitale, Don Winslow,
Present.
Bob Shay,
Here.
Lee McBeth Coleman is excused, Hans Petcher,
Here.
Mark Strong, excused. Heidi Nightingale,
Present.
Emily Daly, here. Steve Sargent,
Here.
Brian Muldrow,
Here.
Jonathan Allen.
Stand for the party.
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you're not aware, Patricia Graham, sister of Chief Assistant County Attorney Rich Graham, passed away yesterday. And we'd like to, on behalf of the legislature, express our sincere condolences to him. With that said, this evening we're gonna have a special budget meeting. The reason I called these meetings was to give the legislature and the public a better understanding of what process, a little better understanding of these numbers and the department requests prior to the tentative budget being released. This is a good opportunity to ask questions and for me also to hear your input. This evening, we're going to have a presentation from our Budget Director, Lynn Marinelli. I appreciate Lynn being available tonight as she has a medical procedure in the morning and will be joining us remotely. So without any further delays, Lynn, you're going to line.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I put together kind of a summary to give you the starting point with the budget process that we have. The departments have put in their requests for 2026, and we've also filled in some other numbers like sales tax and insurance and some other numbers, so we can get a good look at where we're starting off at. So some of the assumptions that I put into this budget is a sales tax increase of 3%. The property tax increase that we've started with is at 2.87, which is right now the estimated tax cap that we can calculate at this point. And we're starting with a fund balance use of 0. With that in mind, that would put us with a budget gap of $9.5 million to start with for this 2026. Next. Just for some information, I mean, I kind of just pulled a couple of other tax increase amounts for the property tax increase to see what the budget gap would be. With a property tax increase of 7%, we'd still be looking at about a $7.7 million gap. And a property tax increase of 10%, we're looking at a budget gap of about $6.3 million. And again, just reiterating there that the estimated tax cap is 2.87. Next. Here I've put together a trend of our total spending in the A fund over the years from 2015. So you can see how, they've were gradually increasing from about 2016 up to about 2021. After that, they started to increase quite a bit more, 5%. Then in 2024, we had a large increase in our spending of 10%. 25, not quite so much. And then 2026, what we're starting with, the proposed budget is another large increase of 6.5%. Next slide. Here I've pulled out a couple of large expenditures to the bigger cost centers. And you can see, as I just had said in the previous slide, that 2024 was a large increase. Some of the things that happened in 2024, specifically in social services, that's when the federal government kind of clawed back a lot of the enhancements that we've been receiving for Medicaid that was keeping our weekly share below the statutory level for our county. So they kind of did it all at once. We basically went up $1 million in Medicaid all in 1 year. During 2024 is also when we gave the larger than normal salary adjustments to the road patrol and the jail. So that was a large increase that affected the jail's operations at that point. We also had, probably starting already by 23, 24, every year in social services, the homelessness, the hotel expenditures that we were having to pay were going up significantly. And for 2026, there's definitely a large increase in there right now due to foster care costs. Um, and that we also, I think, had in 24, wasn't quite as bad in 25, so that increase was a little bit lower. Next. One of the big increases that we've had in the last two budget years has been our health insurance increases. For 25, we kind of had a blended increase. We had I think it was about a 12.7% increase on our Excel's Blue Cross plan, and then we actually had more like a 40% increase on the PPO plan that we didn't have too many employees in, but we had some in. That basically was to equalize the rates on those plans that really were pretty similar in nature. And then this year, the Health Consortium is having another 14% increase. So our increase is exactly that amount. Depends on our mix of, people who have a family plan or an individual plan, and if somebody is switching from one type to the other. But you can also see on this spreadsheet here that the retiree health insurance actually costs more than the health insurance for active employees working at the county. And that is something that's not going to be an easy thing to solve. Next slide. Just a little bit of information here. Also, I want you to know that these increases in health insurance are certainly not unique to Cayuga County. These rate increases are hitting everybody out in the market. I actually went online and looked at the rates for Tompkins Health Consortium, and from 25 to 26, their rates are going up at about 19%. Our consultants have also told us, they work with a lot of municipalities, and it's not even just municipalities, it's everyone. That they actually said 14% is not that bad of an increase from what they've been seeing across the board. And a lot of these increases are caused by higher prices that are charged by healthcare providers, whether it's due to specialty testing or just the cost of their own cost to run their healthcare facilities. There's also increased costs in prescription drugs, and there's also rising utilization. Next. Okay, I've done a similar comparison on revenue trends in the A fund. This is excluding the property tax, though. The property tax is not in here. This would be, all other types of revenues. And I've highlighted where we have some big increases. And the big increases that we actually had in 22, 23, and 24 is we were able to increase the budget a lot for sales tax. So really the sales tax is what made that revenue go up. We really haven't had any other significant revenue sources that have been increasing to us at all. There's also a bigger increase in 2026. But if you look at these, these percentages might seem comparable to the increase in the percentages in expenditures, but for 2024, the expenditures went up by $15 million and revenues only went up by 10. So that is kind of how we're getting the gap, that the expenditures are definitely rising much quicker than the revenues have been. Next. Here's just a breakout of the sales tax. And I have a column showing you what we've actually collected in sales tax and a column showing what the different budgets were every year. And you can see, it's moving up rather slowly from 15 to 19, and then 20 was during COVID, and we actually did not have a decrease that year. We actually got a little bit extra, which was not what anybody probably was expecting when we were in that year. And then 21 was the year that we greatly went up. 10% increase in 1 year. Then we've stayed pretty flat. After that, we haven't had a lot of increases. There's been a lot of adjustments, obviously, from the patterns of people's purchasing patterns and trends that have kind of readjusted now that COVID's been over. You definitely collect more sales tax as prices go up. So that has helped us too. We did have the loss of the home heating fuel around 23 that would have been buried in those numbers. So that could have actually been a little bit higher. I'm not exactly sure of the date that it got imposed, the change, but it was right around then that we instituted um, to stop having that. So the one thing of interest to note there is that, the budget was increased a lot in 22, 23, 24. We kind of had a gradual budget increase, but we had a large increase in actuals, and then we stayed there. So that's why in 22, 21, and even 23, we were beating that budget number. Now, for 24, we actually were below the budget by hair, and we're projecting pretty much now. We're hoping still that maybe we'll have the 3% increase. I was reading some information from NISAC, and the majority of counties are up. I think the state overall right now is up about 2.9%. And that ranges from, I think they said there was a negative 5% drop. That's the lowest performing county. And there's some counties that's had a 10% increase. So it's still kind of, widely ranges across the board there. Next. This is a comparison that I put together here. On the one side on the left, we have the property tax levies and the amount of the levy over the last 10 years or so. And next to it, I pulled some inflation rate, United States inflation rate by year, and compared them. And you can kind of see, COVID was in 2020, and that's when we were preparing the 2021 budget. And, we've had very low increases in property taxes for the next 3-4 years. And inflation was definitely much, much higher than we were projecting in property tax increases. And again, those are the same periods when you hit that 24 that expenditures were going up. And we really weren't pulling in much more revenue in those years. Next. Here's a couple of comparisons of the fund balance. To the left, those are actual fund balance amounts that we had. That's the unrestricted A fund balance in each of the years that would be, available for any purpose. And then next to it, we have historical fund balance use on the budget preparation on the A fund only. And you can see, what not a lot of movement in the fund balance from 15 to about 2019. And we were staying pretty flat with the fund balance uses there in the budget. And then it starts to climb in 22, and then 23 and 24 and 25 have just been much bigger. I haven't reviewed the 2025 projection yet. I haven't had time to do that to see where we'll end up with the fund balance this year. So that we'll be looking at in the next week or so. But how it works is that at the end of 2024, the auditors kind of have to make the assumption that you're going to use the whole 5.5 million that you set aside for the 2025 budget. So they restrict that amount and they take it out of the unrestricted. So that's why, you've seen these big drops kind of really there right at the end, because the more you're putting towards your budget, the more that happens. So yeah, that's something that we'll be looking in the next couple of weeks to kind of see, hopefully we aren't going to come close to using the 5.5, but we will be reviewing that. Next. Yeah, so I mean, I really just wanted to give you a very top-down look of kind of how we got into this position at this point. I think our auditor had pointed out for you, and we're kind of seeing the same thing when we look at the numbers, that the expenditures are definitely been going up much quicker than our revenues. The state, a lot of the state funding we get, unless it's specifically for a grant and then it has to be used on that grant purpose, has really been staying pretty flat. And the same with federal revenues, and even worse now with some of the changes that have happened recently at the federal level, we'll be actually losing some federal aid for some of our social services programs. Um, Again, just looking at, we had some very mild property tax increases for a few years in a row, which are definitely, doing to try and help the property tax owners in the county. But we definitely have had a lot of cost pressures on us, mandated program pressures that we still have to pay for. And the rates of some of those programs, which you'll hear from some departments when they do their presentations, have been growing exceedingly fast. And we have no control over what we have to pay for these mandated services. And it's kind of putting us into a much bigger gap. And our fund balance is not where it needs to be, that we can afford to have, huge draws against it anymore. We are, with that 14 million, we're pretty much at the bottom of our policy. So depending on the 2025 performance, we'll be able to see, how much of the fund balance we maybe can use to help balance the 2026 budget. But it's not going to be near a $5 million number like it was last year. So that's all I have in my presentation. I just kind of wanted to get you to let you know where we're starting off at as we now review the requests that departments had submitted. And you might, be able to get an idea or understanding of some of the changes we might have to propose in order to balance this budget. Does anybody has any questions? Go right ahead.
Questions for Liz? Anyone?
I just have an observation. I mean, it seems like since 2015, there has never been a year where there has been no use of the fund balance. I remember years ago, individuals would calculate if we stay below 900,000 or $1 million of fund balance, it will be like not actually using it for vacations or vacancies and other things in the budget. But to go from a $5.6 million draw to nothing, that doesn't seem totally realistic. But I guess I'm asking, in order for us to have a realistic fund balance use to balance the operating budget for 26, it probably has to be offset with increased revenue. Is that how you're looking at it, Lynn?
Well, I guess, we have to estimate what do we think the 2025 fund balance will be.
Yep.
What if somehow we don't use any of it? Then basically we're starting at more like 19 million. And then you might still be able to budget a use of 2 or 3 million. It definitely hinges on how is 2025 going to perform. The
And right
worst case
now,
scenario is that you're using nothing of it. That's the worst case scenario, kind of, is that we can't use any of it. But we certainly are not going to be able to use 5 million.
Yep. And your projection on what we're going to use for 25 will be done in the next month or so?
Oh yeah, in the next couple weeks. I mean, I use the projected figures that departments input. So, it's 1,000 numbers that you kind of have to have all input in there. So I need to review them. A lot of might not be updated correctly. So we just want to try and get as accurate, if a revenue is going to do better or worse, or an expenditure is going to do better or worse. If it's a significant number, we want to try and look at that. And then, Grace and I will also look to see were there any draws on the fund balance this year with resolutions that got passed. So we'll look at that also to see how it can impact that. Because that's the other thing too, is that fund balance is there for the unexpected things that happen. Such as, the forensic mental health bills that we had last year that were over $1 million. They weren't budgeted. They go right to the fund balance. So, that cushion is there to take care of those unexpected things that can happen at any time.
Anyone else? And just to clarify, with that 9.5 gap right now is based on the current tax cap of 2.87 and department requests, not the tentative budget. Anybody else? Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Our next presentation is from our finance department, please.
Let me step.
Do you want to go?
Good evening, everybody. Grace?
So my presentation, this time, is going to be a little different than some of the ones that I've done in the past. Obviously, this is just going to be the finance department. So before I get into any of our numbers, I kind of wanted to just give an overview of the finance department. Some are new. And then just, you know, you hear a lot from departments that talk about the services they provide to the community. You know, we don't do that. Obviously, we're a back office, but we do provide a lot for the county, and they're not mandated services to the community, but they are mandated for us to continue operation with our fiscal operations. So to start, my first slide, and everybody here, I did hand out the presentation, so everybody should have them in front of you. It's just an organizational chart to show the overview of our department. The finance department does consist, including myself, consists of 9 FTEs. So within the department, we have what we call our payroll unit, and that is 3 staff. And one of those staff actually goes between payroll and accounting. And then we have our grant manager, and then we have the other 4 staff. Well, myself, obviously I oversee everything, but then we have 3 other staff that are the accounting department. Next. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the different things we do. I'm not going to read through every single point on the slides, but you have them in front of you for further, reading. But I again, just wanted to kind of give an overview of some of the main things that we do. For starters, one of my main functions is really to make sure that we're in compliance with New York State Office of the State Comptroller. We're in compliance with any changes in GASB laws. We're making our auditors happy. We're passing all of our audits without any findings. And then developing policies and procedures depending on state audits, our county single audit, or our county independent audit. So just to make sure that we are in compliance with everything. Within our department, we have our accounts payable area, and that's where we're basically paying all the bills for the county. As you can see, we process about 5,300 checks a year, and about 1,800 ACIs, and those are electronic payments that we set up vendors for, and they're issued differently. And then we have a lot of wires that go out monthly as well, depending on what the payment is, our debt payments, different things like that, certain health payments, health insurance or billing payments and stuff. Then we have our fixed assets, where we maintain all the inventory records for all of our capital assets. And in that, as I mentioned, in prior months, this includes, we did do our 25 conversion to the new fixed asset software. In the accounting department, we also do cash management and accounts receivable. So we basically monitor and take in, record. We create deposits and we record all of the cash that's coming into the county via cash, check, wire, ACH, credit card. And then we have monthly reconciliations that we have to do for 53 different bank accounts. And then we have multiple balance sheet accounts, receivable accounts, prepaid accounts, deferred revenues, and just all of our balance sheet accounts. We have to make sure that they're all balanced for the year. We also do capital project accounting, which means we have to record and track all the activity on all of our capital projects. And we have to make sure that that reconciles with our cash. And then we have to close out any capital projects that are done. I will be coming forth with a resolution. I'm not sure if it'll be this month, but if not this month, it will be next month to close out several of our capital projects. So you'll be seeing that. Obviously, you see a lot on my reports. Year end is a huge part of what the finance department does. We do processing, reporting of our 1099s at the end of the year to make sure that we're in compliance with the IRS. We do a lot of year-end reconciliations. We close our financial system, and then we're required to report to the state our annual fiscal report. And then, of course, we have our several year-end audits. I'm responsible for the county audit, the health consortium audit, and the task tobacco asset security corporation audit. And then we have our payroll unit. They're responsible for processing our biweekly payroll. And I just want to point out that our staff currently processes the timesheets for 23 out of the 33 departments in our department. So those are done within the finance department. The ones that we aren't doing right now are your larger departments, DSS, mental health, health department, highway, sheriff. They all have fiscal staff and they're doing their processing. We still take the worksheets and have to process them, balance them, submit them to ADP, but they're actually doing the processing of the timesheets. Processing all new employees, all the reporting that they have to do, GASB 45, which is the post, it's post employment benefits other than retirement. So it'll be your health insurance and so forth. They have reporting there, unemployment reporting, Department of Labor reporting. And then we have the insurance side where we're processing all insurance applications, any changes. We're receiving and balancing and recording all of the monthly insurance payments from the city, soil and water, the college, the city of Oneonta, which is last year came on into the consortium. So they're included as well. All the retirees, we do all of their health insurance. So any changes they have, we bill them for their monthly Medicare or monthly insurance premiums, and then we reimburse them for their Medicare B. And then one of the big things, which is just getting ready to start, is our yearly open enrollment. So that's a timely process. And then we have our grant management. Our grant manager, he's been assisting departments with finding new grants, applying and writing and applying for grants. He's putting together, maintaining a central listing for all of the grants within the county. Meeting with him to review that for the first time, and then we'll probably be giving that to Jonathan to look at. And then he's also the administrator on all of our grant platforms. I've mentioned a few here, but there's more than what's listed here. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, that's a lot of what we do. There's obviously a lot of other smaller things, but these are the main things that the finance department does. And then we have the finance department budget. So the first slide is just an overview of our whole budget. Unlike a lot of the departments, we don't have very many lines, but so we do have our salary and fringe. And you can see our department request went up by 39,000 over start of year of last year's budget. That's mainly due to the health insurance, and there are some step increases in there, contractual step increases that we're required to do. So that's what that increase is. And then the contractual and revenues, I have him here as a total, but I also have a slide coming up that will detail out some of the main lines in those two. But the contractual expenses overall are going up 2.5%, $5,000. And then, so our total expenditures for the finance department are going up about 4%. And most of it is in our salary and fringe. And then we have our revenues, which a lot of people don't realize, but the finance department does hold some bigger revenue accounts. So we actually budget for about $3.2 million in revenues. And these revenues come in and they're for the whole county. So they offset, our budget. Those I have going up about 219,000. So if you flip to the next page, I just highlighted some of the larger expenditure accounts. The detail that Lynn sent obviously is all of our line items. I'm not going to go through all of them because a lot of them are very small, but we'll start. We have a few line items: audit charges, labor contracts, and payroll services. These that are in the finance department are county-wide. The only ones that are not in here are the departments that we allocate out so that they can claim them and get reimbursement for them. So we allocate some to the D fund because we have to do that. And then we allocate some to DSS, mental health, and the health department because they're able to put those in their claims and receive some revenue for it. So we want to make sure that they're getting their share of these expenditures. So what you're seeing here is really the charges for the rest of the audit. The rest of the ADP payroll is our ADP services. Our labor contract is our contract with Bonjanic and King. So we're just offsetting those here. And then the only other line that I have on here that I highlighted was the minor equipment. I did want to show that because that is a finance department line. It is going up by $3,000. And what I'm looking to budget here is we have a check signer that currently is in the county office building. If we can get it, we won't have to use this, but if we can't, we at some point will really need to get a check signer. So those are our main expenditures. And then going on to our revenue accounts. You can see there's a lot of larger line item revenue accounts that we budget in finance. I'll kind of go through them just to give you an understanding of what each of these revenue lines are. We have our retiree drug subsidy. That's about $250,000 that we receive every year. And that's basically reimbursements from CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Basically, it's an incentive for us to provide prescription drug costs. So we provide the health insurance and then CMS gives a rebate to us to offset those costs. Then we get reimbursement from the health insurance fund. So this is reimbursement from the consortium for the administrative stuff that we do. So I'm the treasurer on that account. I provide them with updates monthly, quarterly on the numbers. So I update the fund balance for them, keep track of we do all the accounting, all the billing and so forth. So this is our administrative reimbursement for that. Miscellaneous revenues, other governments, not a great description, but that's basically the reimbursement that we get from CCC and the soil and water for those debt payments that we make. Then we have our larger line item is interest earnings. This is mainly the increase in the whole overall revenues is this is the interest we earn on the cash. I've worked with the treasurer. We've worked very hard with really trying to keep our cash in higher interest bearing accounts as long as we can so that we can earn this additional revenue. Then we have our ACI credit card rebates. So we encourage vendors do electronic payments and credit card payments, and the county receives a rebate if we can set these vendors up. So we try to do that. Larger payments, there is a cutoff. So larger payments, we don't really get a rebate on, but we try to get as many vendors set up as we can. Realized and unrealized gains. We have some tiered CDs in First Liberty, and this isn't really cash coming in, but we're required to report any unrealized gains or losses that are in these tiered CDs. It's an investment account. I've been working with Dave because it's really a very low, I think it's like 1%. So obviously we could earn a lot more. We can't take this money out early. They're in $250,000 increments. So as each one matures, we're pulling them out and putting them into higher interest rate bearing accounts. Sale of equipment, and I'm sorry, I'm not saying we're going up and down. I feel bad. Going back, our sale of equipment, I did reduce the line by 30,000. As you can see, our projections were only 50,000 or for 25. This is the sale of equipment for everything other than the road and machinery fund. So if we bring things to auction, we receive revenue for it. This year doesn't look to be as high as last year. So I just don't want to project that we're going to be receiving more than what we will. Off-track betting. I did increase this line by 75,000. This is revenue we receive. It's tax revenue we receive. I believe, Jonathan, you were in a meeting. We are seeing that the revenue is going up. You confirmed that you were actually told that. And that's going to continue. So we did increase that revenue line by 75,000.
We get some money for off-track betting?
Yes.
Take it down.
Yeah.
Batavia now?
Yep.
Workers' comp refunds, I left that flat, but these are payments that we receive. The workers' comp refunds, their loyalty award payments we receive workplace award payments. That seems to be pretty consistent. So I left that alone at 55,000. Oneida gambling, we do receive payments from the New York State Gaming Commission for, they're called Oneida exclusivity payments. It's based on the consensus of our population, and then we get a percentage. I did increase that by 10,000. That's about 775,000 that we receive in revenue for that. And then that's it. We have transfer from other funds. That's CCC chargebacks that we get. I'm not sure where that's going to lie because with us occupying the space at the college, they are keeping a portion of these chargebacks to offset instead of paying rent. So we did reduce this. I don't know if it'll hit 100,000, but we did reduce it from, I think it was 200, then went down to 150. So we reduced it down to 100,000. So these are the main revenue lines in our budget. And we do have our revenues going up by about 7.27%. And again, mainly because of interest. We're hoping that we can continue to do some cash management and earn some interest on that money. The next fund, or the next slide, I'm sorry. I wanted to kind of bring this up. I know I've showed this slide before in presentations, but I think it's a good time to kind of look at this again. This is our outstanding debt. And with the presentation that we had on the building, the fact that there's going to be discussions on what we're going to be doing with the building, I think it's important to just look at the maturity date of our two big long-term debt payments. One's in 28, one's in 29. It's, I would guess that thinking of the time frame, at least the first one, if not maybe the second one, would be falling off by the time we're ready to make a first bond payment, if whatever is decided. So I just wanted to kind of point that out for some long-term thinking when you're discussing the building.
Can you repeat that?
So we have our bond payments. So the two top ones, the third payment, we actually get reimbursed from, that's the biodigester. We get reimbursed from Soil and Water. So our two top bond payments, we pay, the first one is, the principal payment is about 800,000 a year that we pay. And then we have our interest. And then the second one, we pay about 1.5 million. Well, these are our 26 payments that we'll have in the 26 budget. The maturity date, the first one's going to be dropping off. We'll be done paying on that after 2028. That'll be our last payment. And then the next one will be in 2029, the very next year. So our two big bond payments will be gone by the end of 2029.
Does the college reimburse us for any of this?
Not these three. No. There's there's a college, there's a lease that we have for CCC. They reimburse us. I didn't have that here because it's really not long-term
It
debt.
says community college improvements. It's not coming back, paying like Soil and Water is.
Correct. Okay, correct. So, so what I was saying is with these large payments falling off, oh, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to point out that second bond,
Yep,
we're paying for highway trucks. And that was done in 2013. So
Yep.
we're still paying on trucks that we probably don't even have anymore. Just so people know. This is one of the decisions that was made at one time.
Yep.
We can't keep doing these kind of decisions.
Wow.
Thank you.
yep.
That's big.
So again, that's just an overview of our,
$10. I mean, how many, I'm sorry, I don't want to ask
No.
the question. How many trucks were there purchased at that number, that 20 million?
I don't know, they probably purchased 2 or 3, no big deal. But I'm just saying, we're still paying for them.
All right.
That's not the typical way to buy equipment, is your point,
No.
right? Totally.
Not with a bond. Oh,
so that, so then my last slide is really, I just wanted to, just go over some of the 2026 goals that I have, for the finance department. Obviously, we want to continue to improve our utilization of munis. That's a big thing. I know we've had discussions of reporting. We're going to be looking at our billing, our fixed assets, which we've done, just workflows, different things. Just want to start utilizing it more. We do want to work with our departments to move more of our bank accounts to positive pay. We're finding that fraud is a real issue. In meeting with the banks, it's getting worse and worse. People are getting smarter with technology. So our best prevention is positive pay. We do have it on some accounts. We are going to be increasing some of the positive pay that we're doing currently. And then we, again, want to work with some departments to see if we can get some of the other bank accounts on. We did just move a probation account. We worked with Tyrone and they moved one of their accounts over. New payroll time and attendance software. I'm not going to really speak too much on that. I believe that'll be in Tom's budget, but that is obviously a goal of ours. This will create efficiencies, consistencies, and hopefully will help with centralization of payroll. And then in the end, possibly some cost savings. So that is something we want to look at. As always, we're going to continue to review and update internal processes and controls. We've been working with departments, creating consistencies there. The more we can create consistencies, the more we can start centralizing different things. We do want to create a finance page on the county portal. That hasn't been done yet. And then with that page, we want to have some training tools for different departments and all of our payroll and benefit information. And then one of the other goals is to work with the chairperson to hopefully develop a capital planning team, something that we haven't had. And that would include, a finance planning as well. It would all fall within it. So those are some goals that we want to do. That's all I have.
Only question I have for you, Grace, is that I'm confused. Are we outsourcing the payroll or are we doing it internally?
So for the payroll, ADP does our payroll.
Okay,
So we do all of the processing of our timesheets
yeah,
and everything, with an exception of the 22 departments that Pam and our payroll department's already doing. All the other departments send their payroll spreadsheets that were put together by Pam. She takes them all. She has to put them into one file, balance everything, and then it gets uploaded to ADP. ADP then does all the actual payroll. So they do, all the deductions, all that, ADP does all that.
are they we have a contract with them or do we
Yes.
shop them at all?
We do have a contract with them, yes. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Grace?
Thank you.
Mr. Vaughn?
Good evening. So tonight I really wanted to give you all a high level overview of our information technology budget. The overall goal for us is to essentially this year strengthen infrastructure, security, and service delivery across all county departments. We can go to the next slide. So as far as the budget overview, major investment areas for us is going to be in the internet and dark fiber infrastructure, as well as software centralization and modernization. And I think the overall goal for us, as far as, our budget this year, is to create a united IT foundation that reduces silos and improves continuity of operations across the county. So what I'd like to do tonight is just first go over our IT org chart, explain that to you a little bit, and then dive into a couple of the projects that we're looking to implement. Of course, the internet, dark fiber, some software, and then touch on our revenue opportunities and shared services. So we can go to the next slide. So as far as our IT org chart, our department has a staffing model of 8 total positions that are funded by IT. We have 1 position that is funded by the Department of Social Services. She serves as the primary technical supports person for that department. Our internal IT staff manages all network systems, cybersecurity, user support and infrastructure for all internal county departments And we are also supporting the city of Auburn for their financial system, their help desk. And those are the two primary systems we're helping them with this year. We're planning to expand that support for the next budget cycle. And then just as far as our IT org chart stands, I serve as the Chief Information Officer. We have one senior systems administrator, one senior network administrator. They serve as basically my right hand as far as systems and network go. We have a systems administrator that reports to the senior person. And then we're structured kind of laterally where we have two senior computer systems technicians that assist with more application level support, and then two computer systems technicians that help with help desk and end user support. Next slide. So as far as our internet and dark fiber upgrades, we're looking to upgrade our budget line significantly this year. I wanted to explain that a little bit. I know that's a pretty big number. And where that's coming from is essentially with the county office building going away, essentially. We're going to be moving our data center to Auburn Fire, which is in the works right now. And the county office building essentially served as our hub. We had dark fiber connections, which are network connections from all of our downtown sites that connected centrally to the county office building. Well, with that move to Auburn Fire, we now have to essentially lease new fiber lines that connect those buildings back to Auburn Fire and kind of make that our new central hub. So that's primarily where all these costs are coming from. This is the initial upfront cost. Hopefully over time, we're going to get that to reduce a little bit. It'll take some, we can essentially start to remove some of our third-party internet service providers at some of these other locations as we kind of expand this project. But key upgrades are 63 Genesee Street, of course, the Auburn Fire Department, Cayuga Community College, Assigned Council, Sterling Nature Center, the Highway Barns, and all of the downtown sites that I did mention. We can flip to the next slide and I can kind of show you visually what that looks like now. So essentially, you know, our new hub is going to be the county the public safety building where all of our dark fiber, you know, connections are going to go to. And then we are going to have two redundant lines of connectivity back to Auburn Fire for dark fiber and for internet. So like I was mentioning, you know, some of these sites now we're paying for third-party internet service. Those will be going away in favor of the dark fiber connections once we implement those. Those are currently in the works right now. We're almost completed with the project. We're hoping to move the data center to Auburn Fire and get all of these dark fiber connections completed in late October or November timeframe.
Of 26.
Of 25. Yep. I'm wanting to outline those costs going forward because that will be an annual cost, approximate annual cost going forward, increase to our internet budget.
Guys, once you move it, you're not moving it back
Correct.
to the county office building, even if we rehab it.
That's correct.
So this is a one-time move to Auburn Fire Department that meets all the requirements that you feel are appropriate.
That's right.
And we're not going to pay again and move it back.
Nope. It's a one-time move. Auburn Fire is fully equipped, is a top of the state-of-the-art data center. It will house all of our IT infrastructure and our 911 infrastructure, and prefer a safe, resilient, cybersecure environment now and going forward. So it's the right move.
And Elaine, this ties into the larger scope of the partnership we're forming with IT with the city of Auburn as well. So
I just don't want people to think we are paying all this money and then we're going to
Move it again.
Right. Yeah. It's a one-time move. Yep. Okay, we can flip to the next. Yep. So along those lines, I wanted to touch on the revenue opportunities and shared services. I anticipated a $120,000 revenue increase of 20,000. I did not take into effect. I wanted to mention that we are getting revenue from both the Department of Social Services and Mental Health, the Health Department, for IT support that we provide them. We do get reimbursement in the form of revenue to about the tune of $200,000, give or take, annually. This $120,000 is additional on top of that. And I was kind of really conservative in my number. because right now we're actually having conversations with the city of what the support model may look like next year. That may change. We may be asked to do additional things which may increase the revenue. And then on top of that, I did make a couple notes, so with the state mandated municipal website support effective December 21st to 25, towns with populations over 1,500 will have to maintain a website with a .gov domain. There's also email requirements on top of that. So what my goal is to get the Auburn Fire Department up and running from our data center, perspective. And then while we, continue on with the 911 project as well, it'll give us more time to focus in with some of the municipalities, meet with them, talk about the services we can provide, and really help drive some additional revenue to our county. Not only from, the towns and villages perspective of providing them with IT support internal to their buildings, but we're, also you got to think about like the village PD. We are already providing and have been providing them IT support for Spillman, which is the computer aided dispatch software. We need to, I'm in the process of setting up an MOU with them specifically to start gaining revenue for that level of support that we're already doing. So I anticipate an additional 120. I'm confident we can surpass that, but I wanted to put that number in. Yep.
Great.
That number's related to the contract with the city.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Verify that.
Yep, absolutely. Software centralization. This is a pretty significant increase. It's kind of a twofold increase. One, we're taking some software that other departments have been paying for historically and rolling them into the IT budget. That's a few of these, but there's two specific pieces of software. The public safety Spillman software was an unanticipated cost we incurred this year, and we will, incur that going forward. So I wanted to make that a note of that. That's included in this cost. And then for future planning, as Grace mentioned earlier, there's a significant investment that we were looking to do in the time and attendance system. Now that's an approximate cost. That would be the first year cost. Obviously, as years increase, that year two cost will go down. There's a huge implementation piece to this where we would have to meet with all departments, understand what their requirements are, as Grace mentioned, to get this all centralized into one location. But as she mentioned, if just talking with time and attendance, everything is done in a very manual process with Excel worksheets. Some departments are doing paper. Some departments have a system currently that they're using. So it's all centralizing this and making it, just more streamlined across the county for operations standpoint, auditing standpoint, security standpoint. The list goes on and on. We met with the group internally with Grace, Shireen, Lynn, some others from finance and so on, and really decided that, not only do we really need a really developed ERP system, but with all that, I think our focus really needs to be on time and attendance. We have to really focus on that and clean that up first. So that's why I included that in the ask. I have been working with both Amanda and Sheila on an agenda management platform to help streamline our resolution process. I did want to include that into this as well, into the budget as well. As far as any other costs there, I did include some for an Office 365 backup solution. We are backing up our environment now currently, but this will help. This is a more systematic, automated approach to that. So I wanted to include some money in the budget for that as well.
So real quick to just build up on what Tom was you'll see West Lawn, where this is just an example of some of the things we're trying to centralize and bring back in. For example, West Law is an example because, the sheriffs, the DAs, assigned counsel, probation, and the attorneys, they all buy West Law. They're all doing separate contracts, separate agreements. The licensing agreement only has 30 himself. The next threshold is 50, you get discounts. So if we can all get under one purchasing power, we can actually lower the cost per license agreement. Those are the things we're working on. I spoke to the district attorney today about getting Axon camera contracts combined between the sheriff's and the DA's office. So those are the things we're looking to bring in internally, basically centralizing in order to save costs by group purchasing. And that has not been taking place throughout the county.
And I wanted to mention, we're also looking to do that with the city as well. So we're looking at things like our GIS platform, our licensing behind that, tax software. things where we can really work together to start, centralizing and driving down some costs for both the city and the county.
Any questions for Tom?
When you do that, do you have to pay one big bill and then the other collaborating entities pay into that? Or can everybody pay their portion?
No, well, it'd be budgeted for portions, but again, it falls under Tom's budget and then it'd be charged back, is my understanding.
Okay.
Details we have to work out. We do that across with other things in the county now, so it's just a matter of being solved.
Yeah, just organizing it.
Yes.
Compared to last year, there was quite a infusion in the IT budget so that you could try to help make all this remote in the new location. You're saying your IT budget, local share is increasing
Mhm.
because you have these projects you want to do, but there might be a corresponding decrease in some of the other departments, or have you
Yes.
taken over some of those things that were embedded in other people's departments?
That's correct. So yeah, and as far as the software goes, there are several pieces of software that we're going to take in internally from a budgeting perspective. That will reduce some costs for departments. Yes. The two major, pieces to the software budget were the Spillman 911
Yeah.
and, the ask for the time and attendance module. Those are the two big things that are part of the software budget.
That would be increasing your own request.
That's
those
correct.
Two projects.
That's-
Spillman is not negotiable, right? I mean, you need to,
No, we've already signed off on I believe a 5-year agreement. So, for right now, that's set in stone.
and time and attendance is a time clock? Is that what you're referring to? Or
So it's a module, right? So it would integrate with our existing ERP solution, whether that be ADP, whether that be Tyler Technologies. We're still kind of, in the discovery phase of that, but that's something we want to move forward with pretty aggressively, I think. But again, it's to remove all of the paper and the Excel worksheets and all the stuff that's going on siloed in these departments and really centralize things for Grace and make things easier and more efficient countywide, so.
But to answer your question, yes, it would maybe not a physical time clock that you're used to, but there'd be a way to clock in and clock out and have time accounted for outside of paper worksheets.
and have the infrastructure to centralize every department from doing something different.
Yes.
You reduce man hours of paperwork or hours. Anybody else?
Point, which is, I feel good about the long-term goal that the county had when we brought Tom on. We certainly never had revenues. It was all expenses when we contracted out IT. So that was very interesting to see a revenue sheet from IT.
Well, I thank you. This board allowed me to negotiate, work out a deal with the city and preserve our IT department. And this is all part of that deal we worked out earlier this year.
And just one other point, you will see if you dive into like the hardware and equipment, due to all of the investments you guys have made over the years with IT infrastructure since I got on in 2021, I have decreased those lines as well, because we are not as, we don't need that hardware. And now we have an established 5-year plan. We did a deep dive into our inventory. I feel very confident with those numbers. So we are able to get those numbers down quite a bit. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Yes.
So just to start you with an overview of my department, we have a total of 7 employees, including myself. My office is essentially 2 different segments. There is 3 people under the Real Property Tax Service Administration side of the office, and then 3 under the tax mapping GIS side of the office. So under the administration side, there's a principal supervising real property tax service specialist. I don't think you can get a longer title than that. And she's really the person that helps me with all the assessment role type stuff, preparation of tax bills, preparation of notices throughout the year, just a lot of different administrative type stuff with assessment and tax roll type stuff. The chief tax and assessment data analyst, she does a lot of the address changes, escrow changes. She enters all of the sales into the system, into one program. And then for towns that elect to have us do it, she also enters those sales into our real property system. She does splits and merges into the system. So a lot of that type of work is what she's doing. And then we have the assessment administration specialist, who does assessment services previously for Niles and Moravia and is now taking on Sempronius as well. On the tax mapping GIS side, we have a supervising GIS specialist, and then there are 2 senior GIS specialists under them. So services that we provide. So assessment administration, process and print assessment rolls, entry of various data into assessment rolls. So we get a lot of valuation information from the state that we'll put in just to make sure that it's accurate and we're not having to do corrections after the fact. Notice preparation, so any change notices. Right now, we're in the process of preparing exemption renewal notices for assessors. So throughout the year, there's different notices that we will prepare. If people want data collection sheets, if they're doing revals, we will do those for them as well. Entry of sales, I already mentioned that. Address escrow changes, processing correction of errors. So they do flow through our office. Essentially after tentative roll, we do lock assessors out of the roll. So any changes to the roll after that, our office is making those changes. We do a lot of reporting for internally. Different departments will ask for information. So we do a lot of reporting for that. We do a lot of reporting to the state as well. Assessment services for Niles, Moravia, and Sempronius. I had already mentioned that. Tax bill processing. So we do that for villages, schools, town and county, and city of Auburn County tax bills. Board of Assessment review training. So I am required to do that training annually for anybody that is either newly appointed or reappointed to those positions. We also are in charge of the annual tax foreclosure auction. So we coordinate that and do all the paperwork following that to transfer those properties. And then we also maintain the county-owned property information. So, and on the tax mapping side, they're responsible for generating and maintaining the tax maps. That is a responsibility of the county per law. So that involves doing deed reviews, over 2,000 deeds filed a year, that they'll review to make sure that the legal descriptions match with what we have on the maps. And if they have to make adjustments, they do that. Splits and merges, whether it's through filed survey maps or through request. They do at least over 200 of those a year. Mapping recorded survey maps, over 200 survey maps are recorded a year that they will review and make adjustments from. And also assessor requests. So if an assessor is looking at an area and saying, wow, this is, not really making sense to me, or things don't seem like they're quite right, the mappers will go through and do reviews of those areas and try to clean up some of that. So a lot of the lake frontage, what was done in the past can be a little bit messy. So those do require reviews and for them to do some cleanup. Print tax and survey maps. So we do those upon request, and we do charge for those. Other GIS services. So on the county website is the Find My Legislator map. Our office maintains that and updates that. The septic record locator map, we get information from environmental health and we do update that map as well. E911 address assignments. So anybody that's looking for an address assignment, towns have to give approval, but then we actually do the assignment to make sure that it's in a logical sequence and follows all of the rules. Any questions on what we do? These are the primary things. We also take lots of phone calls and helping people constantly with questions, but so last year around budget time, I was asked to look at what we were charging back to towns for the services that we provide. So I did do a review of that in the spring and did send out notice to all of the towns that we were going to be increasing what we charged based on what we're actually providing. So we do have a revenue increase of approximately 32% in our budget, primarily comprised from those chargebacks to towns, and as well, we took on assessing for Sempronius. But for the other revenue lines that we really have in our budget, assessment fees, so these are chargebacks that we do for any tax bill processing for village, school, city, or town and county. We pay for the expense, but we do charge it back. So this is the revenue part of it. Third-party tax processors, so they do request bill files from us. We do charge them a small fee every year to get those files. And miscellaneous charges go in this line as well. So when people request copies or tax maps, survey maps, that gets put into this line as well.
Jenny, when you notified the towns and villages about this change in administrative fee, this was to start January 1. So, or do you recognize any of this?
I had said it was going to take place this year. So I do intend on increasing what we.
Okay, so it's this bottom line thing that happens at the end of the year?
Yes,
You'll see.
It's at the end of the year where, yeah. And essentially it gets taken out of their sales tax distribution.
At the last quarter or something.
Correct.
Okay, so you'll see a little extra revenue even this year, and then you'll be able to budget for some next year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretty good, impressive 32%. Like, how did you know, you just, how did you calculate the 32%?
So
How do you justify it when you called? Has everybody got a 32% increase or 1%?
overall, our revenue went up 32%.
Okay.
So it's not all from that.
Okay, but your revenue overall went up 32%,
Correct.
not okay.
Correct.
Makes
Yes.
sense. Okay, I'm clear.
And then the other revenue line that we have is assessment real estate, which I have kept flat year to year. So this is really revolving around the auction or foreclosure. So repurchase fees, which we updated our county policy on that a few years ago, that for repurchases, there's a flat fee of $1,500 when they repurchase. That's partly to cover our expenses of the extra work involved in doing that process. It also brings just a little extra revenue to the county as well. Also, it's hopefully to deter people
I
from
don't know how to.
constantly doing that.
Not paying their taxes and then buying it back.
Right, yeah. So
Yeah.
couple reasons for putting that one in. Auction admin fee, so we get a $200 fee per auction parcel that sells. And then the auction buyer premium, our last contract that we did with Auctions International, we actually set up an agreement that the buyer premium has been 10% for quite a while. Now they're taking 6% and 4% is coming to the county. So that was partially to help offset. It certainly doesn't make a huge impact, but the fact that we were losing surplus funds, so at least the county was going to get something out of doing these auctions. So this year we did perform quite a bit better than I thought we would with auctions. So that revenue was higher than I had anticipated, but I didn't want to put that full amount of increase into next year's budget because auctions are unpredictable. So I still did stay a little conservative on that one. Any questions on our revenue? Okay. Contract expenditures. So our expenditures aren't crazy high, but I did reduce our request by 4% over our last year's request. I did request an increase for postage just because postage rates have gone up so drastically and we have a lot of mailings for our tax bills. But again, we do charge those back to the municipality. So even though the revenue line is asked to be increased, we will recoup it from revenue. Requested budget includes an overall decrease of 2,000. So again, not a big decrease, but 4%. So we made reductions to auto expense, equipment rental, professional dues, professional services, telephone, and training. They were all relatively minor reductions, but
It adds up though.
Yeah.
guess if anybody has any questions.
Budget sheets as well. We have these questions for us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any legislators have comments? Or-
So good.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.